You know that feeling? A weird noise in an empty house. A flash of movement just at the edge of your vision. It's those moments that make the hair on your arms stand right up. Forever, we've called them ghosts. But what if the spooky truth isn't really out there, but inside our own heads? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the science of the supernatural. So picture this. It's 1989. You're a super famous actress. You're on the set of a horror movie. You wake up in the middle of the night and there's a woman sitting right there on your bed talking to you. This is what actress Dimple Kapadia swears happened to her. It's just so chilling, right? And these personal stories, they're the hardest ones to just brush off. So what is really going on here? And look, it's not just these one-off stories. Our whole culture is basically soaked in the paranormal. We cram into movie theaters to see stuff like The Conjuring or The Exorcist, and a lot of them use that little phrase that gets you inspired by real events. And then we go home and binge watch shows like Ghost Hunters, with Keems using all this high-tech gear to find spirits. This fascination is literally everywhere. And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? When we're looking at these spooky stories and what seems like solid evidence, what are we really seeing? Is it actual proof of the afterlife, or is it just a weird glitch in our own brains? Well, we are about to find out, and I promise you the answers are probably way more surprising than you think. Okay, before we get into the really deep, mysterious stuff about the mind, let's start with the low-hanging fruit, the straight-up fakes. Because, for as long as people have been telling ghost stories, there have been other people willing to make them up for two very simple, very human reasons: fame and money. A perfect example? The Fox sisters, back in the 1800s. These three became absolute superstars of the supernatural. They claimed they could talk to spirits through a series of mysterious knocking sounds. The truth? So much less mystical. They were just cracking their toes and messing around with strings. It sounds kind of silly now, but their success shows you something really important. Sometimes we want to believe. And you see this same playbook with the whole Amityville horror case. I mean, it's infamous. First, a murderer claims ghostly voices made him kill his family. He was just hoping to get a lighter sentence. Then, the new family that moves in tells their own story of terror, which, surprise, surprise, led to some very profitable book and movie deals. In both instances, the paranormal was just a convenient lie. And don't think for a second these hoaxes are just old-timey stories. They've just gone digital. A so-called paranormal expert named Steve Huff went viral with a video claiming he was talking to the spirit of the late actor Sushant Singh Rajput. And the proof? It was just audio from an old interview, cleverly chopped up. This one really shows you how modern hoaxes feed on grief and emotion, and just spread like wildfire online. But okay, hoaxes are one thing. They're the easy part. What about the people who aren't lying? The people who genuinely, 100% believe they've had a paranormal encounter? This is where things get really interesting. We're moving away from simple lies and into the fascinating and sometimes pretty weird mysteries of the human brain. So let's take a look at the horror movie Veronica from 2017. It absolutely terrified people with its story of a girl who gets possessed after using a Ouija board. And its marketing had a secret weapon, the claim that it was inspired by a real police report. I mean, that phrase alone is designed to send a chill right down your spine. But what does it actually mean? Okay, so here's something you really need to pay attention to in these movies. There is a world of difference between inspired by and based on a true story. Inspired by is basically a permission slip for a filmmaker to take one tiny little piece of truth and build a whole mountain of fiction on top of it. And that's exactly what happened with Veronica. The movie? Totally terrifying. The real story? Honestly, it's just tragic. The real girl, Estefania, she didn't die possessed after 3 days. She sadly passed away months later from seizures. Her parents were alive, not dead like in the movie. And medical experts think an undiagnosed psychotic disorder could have explained her strange behavior. The movie basically took a family's real-life tragedy and twisted it into a supernatural horror flick. But I can hear you thinking, okay, sure, one person might be mistaken, but a whole family? When multiple people see the exact same scary stuff? That has to be real, right? Well, psychology actually has a name for this. It's called mass psychogenic illness, and it is a bizarre but totally documented thing where in a really close, often isolated group, one person's powerful delusion can basically become contagious. It spreads, and pretty soon everyone is living in the same strange reality. They're not lying. Their own brains have convinced them it's real.
All right, so we've talked about lies, we've talked about the mind playing tricks on us. Now let's get into the evidence. You've all seen the ghost hunting shows, right? With all the blinking gadgets and cryptic readings. But what is that technology actually doing? Let's break down the ghost hunter's toolkit.
First up, the classic, the Ouija board. The idea is pretty simple. You and your friends put your hands on this little pointer. You ask a question, and a spirit spells out the answer. And what makes it so convincing is that everyone in the room swears they are not the one moving it.
So, if nobody's pushing it, what is moving that little planchette? The answer is this really cool psychological principle called the ideomotor effect. Put simply, it's your brain making your muscles move without you consciously telling them to. You're making tiny, involuntary movements that are guided completely by your own subconscious thoughts.
Here's basically how it works. You ask, is anyone there? Your brain, which is already expecting an answer, subconsciously forms one. Then it sends these tiny, microscopic signals to the muscles in your fingers, and that guides the pointer to spell out YES. It's not a spirit answering you. It's you. You're the ghost in the machine.
Kind of creepy, right?
Okay, but what about the more high-tech stuff, like the infrared thermal camera? Ghost hunters love these things. They claim they can capture the cold spots or heat signatures that spirits leave behind, and on screen it looks like real visual evidence. But the reality is way less spooky. A thermal camera just shows differences in temperature. That's it. If you get up from a chair, you leave behind a warm, human-shaped patch. That's not a ghost, that's just your body heat. And those ghostly footsteps they find, a lot of the time it's just the thermal reflection of their own footprints on a cool floor. And it's the exact same story with all the other gadgets. That EMF meter that starts going crazy? It's not detecting a spirit's energy. It's probably just picking up the Wi-Fi router in the other room or the battery pack on their own camera. The motion sensor that goes off could be a draft from a window or, a mouse. So, what's the big takeaway here? It means we really need to draw a sharp line between entertainment and evidence. A great scary movie is a ton of fun, but when superstition gets dressed up to look like science, it can lead to real fear, misunderstanding, and even exploitation.
Which brings us right back to where we started, that really chilling, personal story from Dimple Kapadia on that film set. If it wasn't a hoax and it wasn't a ghost, what on earth was it?
Well, the most logical explanation is actually a psychological one. Think about it. She spent her entire day getting into the character of a ghost. That idea was just burrowed deep inside her mind. So when she woke up in the dead of night, in that weird state between dreaming and being fully awake, her brain basically produced a vivid waking dream. It would have felt 100% real, but it was a creation of her own mind. So, at the end of the day, loving a good scare is just part of being human, but it's so important to know where the fun fiction ends and the real facts begin. The next time you feel that chill run down your spine, or you see something you just can't explain, ask yourself, is it something supernatural out there? Or is it something even more mysterious and way more fascinating, the ghost in your own machine?